Welcome, one and all, to the ancient journey. If you like the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to us. On today's journey, mostly harmless. On July 23rd, 2018, a body was found in a tent in the Big Cypress National Preserve in Florida. The body was of an emaciated man. An autopsy on the victim determined no cause of death, and the man had no identification on him. Contained in a wallet, the man had $3,500 in cash and a notebook full of computer programming notes for an online game called Screeps. Other than that, there was nothing to identify the man. Eventually, police tried to piece a timeline together of when the man had arrived and where he had come from. He was between 35 and 50 years of age, with gray-brown hair and a beard. After some time, police were able to track down several other hikers along the Appalachian Trail who had interacted with the deceased hiker. Witnesses who remembered him provided information as far back as 2017, when a man was seen hiking in a state park just outside of New York City. Witnesses described the man was heavily geared, much more so than you would be for just a casual weekend hike. Finding his way to the Appalachian Trail, this man made his way south, meeting several others along the way. Witnesses who had seen him had many names for him. A few had called him Denim, naming him after his jeans he wore. But the name that seemed to stick was Mostly Harmless, which was a name he had given to himself while sitting around a campfire with other hikers one night. Mostly Harmless traveled without a phone and seemed to be somewhat inexperienced. One witness recalled teaching him how to make a fire, and another recalled having to give Mostly Harmless a map. Some recall even seeing him walking through a snowstorm. When two hikers came upon his body in the summer of 2018, Mostly Harmless had already traveled some 600 miles on foot. His body weighed only 83 pounds. Police began their investigation and could not come up with a name, matching fingerprints, or any identification. Police drew a SketchUp and attempted to have others identify him. They asked for the public's assistance in providing photos of his campsite, along with the sketch, and encouraged those who had met him to try to come forward. Police noticed that Mostly Harmless' teeth were in excellent condition, indicating decent dental care for most of his life. It was at this point that facts about Mostly Harmless had begun to flood the internet. Surely, in this day and age, where the internet holds a flood of photos and details about people on the internet, something would have to turn up. But no one had reported anyone missing who was a match to Mostly Harmless. There were no fingerprints on file that matched him. Pictures had begun to come in from other hikers on the trail, but no one had any name or could recall any comments that Mostly Harmless had made about any friends, family, his location, or employment. Many internet sleuths picked up on the case and tried to connect the dots, but no one had any luck. Wired magazine even published an article about the mystery. Police even went as far as sequencing Mostly Harmless's DNA, but came up with no matches. Wired magazine's article was viewed by over 500,000 people, and more information began to flood in. Eventually, after 2 years, a tip came in. Someone had received a photo of Mostly Harmless and recognized him. even recognized the coding notebook that had been found with Mostly Harmless. In December of 2020, a woman's DNA was matched to Mostly Harmless. It was Mostly Harmless's mother, and Mostly Harmless's name was Vance John Rodriguez. Vance John Rodriguez lived a troubled life, attempting suicide as a young man and dealing with bouts of depression his entire life. A bright and talented computer engineer, Vance worked in IT and excelled at it. He was in and out of troubled relationships, and past girlfriends claimed emotional and physical abuse. Friends of his noted his tendency towards long bouts of depression, where Vance would not eat or leave his room. Tracing his internet history, he had posted in an online forum in 2017, "I'm mostly harmless for now." By mid-April of that year, he posted one last time and headed into the woods, only to be found over a year later, deceased. Remarkably, when those who knew him were presented with the photos of him from the trail, they noticed how happy and healthy he looked. He looked like he had shed his dark past and found peace. So what had happened to Mostly Harmless? Why did he die? It appeared as though he was starving despite being flush with cash and only miles from an interstate. Perhaps the darkness caught up with him, and he entered one final depression, unable to leave his tent. Or perhaps his body had given out on him from the year of hard life on the trail. The only certainty is, Mostly Harmless would keep this one last secret to himself. Thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing the journey with us. Goodbye.